Welcome back to The Rundown. Well, as we just mentioned, another tradition is being flouted at the Republican National Convention this week. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, speaking from Jerusalem today, becomes the first holder of his office to give an address at a political convention, flouting decades of diplomatic protocol. Well, Democrats have suggested it could also be an unlawful, citing the Hatch Act, a law restricting federal employees from engaging in certain activities. Well, joining us now is Dr. Elana Sztokman, Vice Chair of the Media and Public Relations of Democrats Abroad. And joining us from Modi'in is Abraham KATSMAN, Counsel to Republican Overseas Israel. First, let me start with you, Elana. Mike Pompeo giving an address to the Republican National Convention from Jerusalem. Is there anything wrong with that in your view?
First of all, it's against the law. It goes against the Hatch Act. People working for the government cannot, while they're on the state dime doing state work, campaign. So that's number one. Number two, it's dangerous for Israel because he is putting at risk all the work that he's doing, all the sensitive things going on with Israel, and he's mixing it all up with his Trump campaign. But you know, in addition to all that, he's trying to, which we know the Republicans have been doing for a while, they're trying to turn support of Israel into a wedge issue. And we know that this is extremely problematic and also does not represent what American Jews are after. American Jews all want to see support for Israel. Support for Israel is a key component of the Democratic platform, as it always has been. But the Republicans are trying to, you know, politicize Israel and turn Jews against Jews the way, you know, Trump did when he suggested that, you know. So, yeah, so there are a lot of problems with this, you know, but we're used to this. We're used to Trump and his people flouting the law, flouting
Elana, okay, well, there's a lot there for Abe to respond.
Ilana, by the way.
Excuse me?
My name's Ilana.
Ilana, I'm sorry, Ilana. Let's go to Abe. There's a lot to respond to there. Abe, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. And as long as we're making corrections, I'm in Jerusalem.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, look, this is not a Hatch Act violation. He is not doing this on his time, as you know, he's not on duty. I'm kind of amazed that the Democrats are bringing up Hatch Act violations. If you remember some years back, Al Gore was caught making phone calls soliciting donations from his office, and the Democrats said, "There's nothing to see here," and that was the famous "there's no controlling legal authority." That was his defense. The law plainly says you can't. But anyway, in this case, there's not an issue. Look, he's a cabinet minister, but a cabinet member. But cabinet members have spoken before. They spoke at the 2012 convention. So I'm not sure exactly what the problem is here.
Well, I think he was not. I will just say he spoke. He was not the Secretary of State then. He did not hold the position that he holds now.
But I'm saying that there were cabinet members, there were administration members of the Obama cabinet that did speak in 2012 at the Democratic convention. So I'm not sure why, why it's such a big deal.
Well, let's ask Elana. Let Elana respond to that. Cabinet members, but not secretaries of state. That is unprecedented.
Totally unprecedented. This has never been done, and I don't know how you could make the argument that he's not currently on the job. He's totally on the job now. I have no idea how you can make the argument that he's not doing his. And also, what is he doing in Jerusalem? And by the way, who paid for his trip to Jerusalem? How did he get here? Who's paying for that? Is that the campaign paying for that, or is it the state paying for it?
He's on
I don't understand how you. It's a completely disingenuous argument.
All right. Well, let Elana, you raise the point. Let Abe respond to that about the cost of the trip.
Look, he's on a 5 or 6 day trip. He's going to be in Israel. He's going to be in Sudan. He's going to be in Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, I think. Anyway, so he happens to take an hour out. It's not, he's doing this again. Just because you're on a trip doesn't mean that you are what is, in the legal sense, on duty in terms of whether you are actually acting in your capacity. There are laws about this, and I think that you'll see kind of how unserious the charge is by, it's been made, but there hasn't been a whole lot of hay made about this on, like from the other side and in the U.S. media. It's an attempt, I understand, and you'd rather have this come up than actually discuss the records on Israel of the respective campaigns and the respective parties. I understand that. But
Joe Biden has a phenomenal record on Israel. Harris has a phenomenal record on Israel. There is absolutely nothing to talk about there other than how great the Democrats are right now. So Biden and Kamala Harris got elected, got nominated based on very, very strong records on Israel. So that's a very clear message coming from the Democratic Party.
Well, I seem to recall that Joe Biden was actually the point man for getting UN Resolution 2334 passed. That was the parting shot from the Obama administration that declared even Jerusalem to be illegally occupied, and that any Israeli presence has no legal validity. Thank you, Vice President Biden. Is that part of the record that you're talking about that's been perfect?
Well, you know what? I don't want to make this into a general campaign debate. I will ask, but since you did raise it, Elana, if you think that Israel is an issue that Joe Biden can run with and successfully. Of course, we've seen a majority of the Jewish community, the American Jewish community, does always tend to vote for Democrats. Do you have any reason to believe it might be different in this election?
In 2018, 79% of American Jews voted Democrat, which is the highest it's been in a while. More American Jews voted Democrat in 2018 than 2016. The number of Jews going Democrat, going blue at this point is on the rise because American Jews vote their values. Integrity is important. Honesty is important. Character is important. Jewish values are important. The Jewish values of care and compassion and empathy and general, being a decent human being, these things count. These things count. These things matter. The idea that, we don't put children in cages, for example.
Well, hold on. Alana, I want to go back to Abe. Abe, do you have any reason to be hopeful that President Trump will, and he has done the things that you've said that are popular with certainly many in the Jewish community, that he will increase his percentage of the Jewish vote, say above that 35% ceiling that Republican presidential candidates seem to have?
I think there's hope for that, but I think that it's very difficult to say one way or the other what's going to happen there. Look, for those people, for those Jews who consider, the Israel issue, so to speak, the primary issue to vote for, he will get an overwhelming percentage of the vote. From the other side, generally from those who are farther left, and most of the Jewish community is no question about it. The American Jewish community has moved very far left, especially the less affiliated they are, the more left they go. That's pretty much, you can graph it practically. So as a result, the Israel issue is not it just doesn't rise to the level of importance for a lot of people on the left that it does for more people on the right. And for people who are more who are more strongly Jewishly affiliated, they are more likely to. All
right. Well, I do think we have to leave it at that. It could be, we should mention, and I'll mention, it could be that Secretary Pompeo's address tonight may be more directed to another audience, the evangelical community in the United States, and perhaps that is why he's choosing to speak from Jerusalem. Dr. Elana Sztokman, Vice Chair of the Media and Public Relations for Democrats Abroad, and Abraham KATSMAN, Counsel to Republicans Overseas Israel. Thank you for joining us on The Rundown.